Good afternoon. Another edition of Nolf Bites here from Nolf Chrysler Jeep Dodge and Ram in Fairmont City, PA. I always miss something there.
You're
Chrysler.
close.
There's a Chrysler in there too. Chrysler Jeep Dodge and Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram.
Yep.
There we go. In Fairmont City, I'm Chris Rossetti. I'm alongside Andy Byers and Ronnie Geist, both working down here hard all day, selling trucks and Jeeps and cars all day long, and couple of things going on down here. Why don't you tell people what's going on, Andy?
A lot of good deals. We're closing out the month here, pretty much last week, and huge rebates. Trucks have $1,000 off on certain 2500s. Jeeps have up to $4,500 on leases. We also have some bonus coupons that we can use for special customers, which everyone's a special customer if they come in. So lots of stuff going on. Come on down for a good deal.
As always, the deals are hot. The
phones are already ringing.
Yeah, phones are ringing off the hook now all of a sudden, and everything's good to go down here at Nolf. And guys like offense.
Yeah.
There was lots and 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 lots of offense in District 9 on Friday and Saturday. There was we got 7 touchdowns in the first half by Aiden Bliss, and didn't even make it to halftime.
Who were the other 5? There was did the article say there were 5 known in the district?
Yeah, there were, and now you're gonna call me on it right here off the top. I know that I want to say that Newcomb from Clarion Limestone, and then the first year of the Clarion CL Co-op when they were still known as Clarion, and then hold on, while we get to that, we also have 7 touchdowns, passes by Braylon Wagner,
6 passing, 1 rush.
Yeah, 6 passing. But no, it wasn't. No, it was 7.
Oh, okay.
There was a 7. The one to Eastlick was like a shovel.
Well, I thought they asked him in the.
They did, and then they went back and they looked at the video, and it was definitely a pass.
Okay.
It wasn't supposed to be a pass. It was supposed to be a pitch to Eastlick, and somehow or other, Eastlick got in front of the play, and so the ball got pitched forward. Thus, it's an underhand touchdown pass.
We like to keep it exciting for the fans.
So back to Aiden Bliss and our list of other players to do that. All right, Bank Valley fella.
Who?
Mark Struthers.
Oh, wow.
In 2013. Dave Richards at Clearfield in 2002. Ian Corbett of Clarion in 2014, and Austin Newcomb in 2018. So Richards, they were all on the ground. He had 7 rushing touchdowns. Struthers were all on the ground, 7 rushing touchdowns. Corbett had 6 rushing and a kickoff return, and Newcomb had 6 rushing and a receiving touchdown. And then, of course, Aiden Bliss had 5 rushing, returned the opening kickoff 94 yards for a touchdown, and then also had a pass. I think it was a 22-yard pass.
Did they give him the second half off?
I think so.
Could you imagine being a 10th grader and at 2:00 you're doing algebra, and at 7:00 you're trying to tackle that guy?
Yeah, I mean, and he's only a junior.
Yeah.
No, I keep speculating. Will they have to move him to the offensive line next year? And wouldn't that be a story to tell if he got moved to the offensive line next year?
I tried to convince Jason to move Braylon to wide receiver. So
who's going to play quarterback?
Jackson. Yeah, can run triple.
Guys are all right in the wide receiver. Jackson had 4 touchdown catches or something like that.
Something like that.
Something like that. And then of course Jace Ferguson had 6 more touchdown passes. Brady Collins, who right now is neck and neck, I think, with Jace Ferguson for Player of the Year, along with Aiden Bliss. It's not an easy. That is not going to be an easy figure out at the end of the year on who Player of the Year is.
Whoever's team goes further.
Yeah, most likely. I mean, some of that can be different because obviously a team in 4A like Clearfield is going to run into bigger and better teams. Brady Collins ran for 360 yards.
4 touchdowns?
Yeah, 360 yards and 4 touchdowns. All of this doesn't even get into the game I was at, which was the Karn City and Punxsutawney game where Hunter Shear ran for 180 and 4 touchdowns in a game that was a 1 touchdown game, and also had a big sack in that game. And then over in District 10, we had a couple of heck of games on Saturday. I mean, Hickory knocked off Erie 27-25, and then in the Steel Bowl, Sharon beat Farrell 14-7. Rivalries are a bigger deal in District 10 right now than they are in District 9. They just it just feels like they have more oomph to them for whatever reason. Maybe because they're more competitive.
Well, are those all? A lot of those schools are real close to one another too.
Well, yeah, I mean, you take Sharon and Farrell and Hickory, and they really should be just one school district. Really, if you're really looking at them, I mean, I didn't realize this until last year, and I was over there for a bunch of stuff, and I start driving, and I'm like, okay, now I'm in Hickory, and now I'm in Sharon, and now I'm in Farrell. Wow, this is a little crazy actually, because like it's like literally, we talk about that around here with like Clarion and Clarion Limestone, but like it's literally like you're like 3 miles down the road from each other.
I would say that definitely helps the rivalries, being that close. Think about it. Your cousin 2 streets down, you're playing on Friday night, here pretty much we're all pretty spread out, really.
Well, and now the rivalries are all the same team. Yeah, Clarion Limestone, Union and AC Valley. And then up north where you had some great rivalries, you have a great team like Port Allegheny, and then you got some struggling teams like Smethport and Coudersport, and so that rivalry isn't as big because it's just not. They're just not. The games just don't mean as much.
Yeah, they're not nearly as competitive. It's different when it's a 10-6 game. It's a little easier to get excited for every year.
Well, we had like 10-6 like moments during games last week. I mean,
30 seconds.
Yeah, first, we kickoff returns all over the place, and drives going down the field, all that stuff, and it was nice to see. Kane seems like they've started to figure some things out under first-year head coach Matt Bodemer too. They still lost to Brockway, but it was 27-14. Now they scored a late touchdown to make it 27, but still much more competitive than they were early in the season.
I'm watching film on Kane now. You can see them progressing through the year. He's doing a good job, it seems. Anytime a young coach takes over, it takes a little bit of time to mold that.
We were talking earlier. That's the man that Jace Ferguson's chasing for the touchdown record.
Yeah, and
passing touchdown.
Yeah, passing touchdown record. Yeah, and
did you follow them? Were you doing football when they were on their run?
I was, and remember they had a playoff game up at they had a championship game against Clarion up at
this is Port Allegheny.
Yeah, this is Port Allegheny up at Bradford High School, and it snowed, and there were probably 2 or 3, 4, 5 inches of snow on the field, and they're out there, and people are trying to clear the snow on one end while it's being played on the other end, and it's one of those classic games, right? And everybody's like, "Wow, the snow's going to hurt Port Allegheny because they want to throw the ball all over the place." What everybody quickly found out was the Gators receivers knew where they were going, and the Bobcat defensive backs didn't, and so it was a bloodbath, but it was a bloodbath for Port Allegheny, and they went on and made the state semifinals that year. But they ran into Clareton and some dude by the name of Tyler Boyd.
Yeah, I was at that game, and I remember sitting in the stands, and it was close at half. I think it was within a touchdown or maybe 2, something closer than, I'll be honest, what I expected. I swear in the second half, their head coach was just like, you know what? We've got really good athletes. We're just going to figure out how that they can take the game over.
Nick Conway for Port was about the only kid on that team that was as athletic as all those kids from Clareton were. But yeah, that was, that happens sometimes in those Class A matchups where a school like Clareton or Rochester ends up with just they got NFL caliber athletes. I mean, Tyler Boyd's been in the NFL for how long now?
He went to Pitt.
Yeah, went to Pitt and was with the Bengals, and now I can't remember where he signed.
I don't know.
Is it Carolina or something? I don't remember exactly where he signed, but that's a massive difference. And we keep seeing these blowouts. I mean, Central Clarion put up 75 points. Red Bank had 56. I know you kind of wanted to get into it last week, Ronnie. We didn't really, but whose responsibility is it to call the dogs off? Is it the losing team? Is it the winning team? Does it really matter?
Well, I was talking.
Depends the rivalry.
I kind of talked to Blaine a little bit. He said Waz told him, he felt like it was the winning team's job to pull out. And, I've heard other people talk where, I'm not going to until the losing team waves the white flag, I'm not going to pull my guys. I mean, in the years past at Red Bank, we've had situations where kids are only playing 2 quarters, and Clarion's running into that now. Part of it's getting up to game speed, getting in condition. I mean, coaches have that obligation in practice. You have to elevate practice to get kids ready and to get them prepared. I mean, I feel like at a point when the winning team is yanking their, pulling their starters, it becomes okay, let's make a kind of a gentleman's agreement from across the field. But you go back to our game against Port, Mercy roll is intact. But if Port pulls their starters and puts their second team in, there's a good chance that we at least make that a heck of a lot more competitive than it ended up being. So it is a hard place to be and a hard decision to make. I mean, from a fan's perspective, when do you think it should come out, Andy?
Well, I think it's hard. I go back to, like Red Bank's had success the last several years. And a lot of them starters, when typical teams might pull them, like Ronnie said, your kids are only getting 2 quarters of play time. Is that fair to them because the competition isn't as good? I don't know. I think it's kind of it's tough to make that call, but I think I'll use our game. Keystone, you're up. Red Bank was up pretty good on them. We pulled some people out, put some of the backups in, and I think that was fine. I think you don't have to do it all at once either. I think you can pluck 1 or 2 players here or there, depending on the position. But at the same time, I guess the hard thing is as the team that's down, you don't ever want to just give up either. So I get it. If there's a minute and 30 left and okay, we'll go ahead and run it out. We're obviously not going to win this, but 6, 7, 8 minutes left. I think you still got to give a valiant effort to say, I don't know.
See, and my perspective on this is if I'm good enough that I'm crushing you, I am not leaving my starters in there for risk of an injury because it's football and an injury can happen at any point in time. And there's no way to prevent that sometimes, yeah, maybe you can prevent things like muscle injuries or stuff, but there's nothing that prevents. Okay. So Red Bank, you guys ran Braylon Wagner for a touchdown late in the game after the game was out of hand. Obviously nothing happened to him. If he breaks his leg there, my gosh, is Blaine taking a whole heck of a lot of criticism today, right?
Oh, definitely. And generally speaking, in years past, I'm probably the more cautious of the team, of the coaches. My sense is just that I'm never going to lose, a starter because I want to beat a team by 40 or I want a kid to have 4 touchdowns, whatever. I don't care about that. So I generally, the win's all that matters. Now, I have been on the opposite end of that, and I've been on teams that get mercy rolled every week, and it's a hard pill to swallow. it's tough. It wears on you. But from a player's perspective, like I've been in it where I only got a quarter and a half. I can remember was saying,
Hey
look,
guys, let's step aside real quick. We can continue this here in a minute. You're watching Nolf Bites on the YDL Sports Network. Why should you choose Nolf, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram in Fairmont City? Why wouldn't you choose them? At Nolf, their sales are speedy and include upfront and straightforward pricing. If it's service and parts you're after, they have skilled technicians who are factory trained while offering knowledgeable parts experts. Maybe you need Nolf's full service body shop offering top quality collision repair to all makes and models of cars, trucks, vans, and SUVs. Or do you want to cruise the highway in a clean, shiny vehicle thanks to Nolf's detailing service? No matter your needs, Nolf, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram in Fairmont City is there for you. Find out more at nolfchryslerdodge.com. When it's your special day, we know you want everything to be just perfect. That's why at the Allegheny Grill in Foxburg, we spared no expense in creating our new indoor-outdoor wood-framed event center with waterfalls, gorgeous views of the Allegheny River, a fire pit, and plenty of parking. The Allegheny Grill in Foxburg will take care of everything from catering to bartending, so all you have to do is bring the fun. We do it all for your wedding, anniversary party, corporate event, and so much more. One look at our new facility and we know you'll fall in love. And remember, the view is always free at the Allegheny Grill in Foxburg, PA.
What's the recipe for surprising the kids, treating yourself, and ditching dish duty? You're looking at it. Order your Pizza Hut faves like original pan, original stuffed crust, and more at pizzahut.com. No one out-pizzas the Hut.
Back here right now, it's Andy and I. As when you're live at a car dealership, Andy, it's always great to see some customers come in, right?
Yeah, definitely. So Ronnie had to step out and help them out here for a second. He should be back here shortly, but
we were talking a little bit there before the break about, do you worry about injuries? I mean, as a parent, do you worry about injuries?
Well, I think going back to, I guess you look at it as how far do you want to take it? We're talking about pulling starters so we don't have injuries. Last week we were discussing Montauk canceling the game against Clarion, and they were doing that because of safety concerns. And if you look at something like our schedule with Red Bank, and this actually happened to us last year, we ended up playing a district championship without Braylon. Jackson was able to step in and help win it, but we played Clarion, and I don't remember exactly, maybe third quarter, I think Braylon had thrown an interception, and I don't remember exactly whether he was making a block or making the tackle, but he actually injured himself. And we lost Braylon for 3 weeks. So you look at now, we didn't have to play Clarion. They weren't, conference game for us, but they were on our schedule. So, this is going a little more extreme, but you get into, do teams like us say because of injury concerns, we play Clarion, I believe, second to the last game. If somebody start talking, hey, you know what? Just forfeit the Clarion game. It doesn't matter for you anyway, playoff wise, because of safety. And I think pulling starters out for safety reasons, canceling games for safety reasons, it's a slippery slope. But at the end of the day, it's high school sports and it's fun, and them kids want to play no matter what. I don't care what quarter you're in. You're never going to ask one of them kids out there, do you want to step off the field? You might get hurt. I'm sure if Braylon could stay out there for another 5 minutes,
and that's why you have adults in place too. You can't let the play. Any player worth his or her salt isn't going to ask to come out of the game. Sometimes you have to look at the bigger picture of what's best for the program, and sometimes you have to look at what's best for the health of the sport in general too. And I'm not sure that 75 points or 56-20, I'm not sure that's good for the health of the game either. But it is an interesting topic, and I don't know if there's any right or wrong answer. I do know that I feel more like I'd rather see, especially if you have them, I'd rather see the younger players get an opportunity. I was listening to this as I was watching. They were talking about this during the Penn State game the other day, and Penn State obviously put up like 718 yard school record against Kent State, and they talked about the young guys getting experience and how you're going to need those guys because you're going to, and that experience becomes beneficial because if you do lose a player to an injury later in the year, now guys have been out there and they've played and they've been in situations that aren't just run the clock out situations. And so the thing of it is specifically in high school and college where you're always replacing players year to year. I think that's a beneficial that if you're up big at halftime sometimes, it might not feel fair to the starters, but it might be beneficial to have the guy that might be your starting left guard next year getting real reps in a game in the third quarter as opposed to late in the game.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And everything's driven to, these statistics and what these kids want to do, personal achievements and stuff is hard too, because you do have I'd say you have coaches out there that are fighting for one or two kid maybe to set a school record. And, in them situations, like what do you take? I'll just use for Red Bank. I'll use Braylon Wagner for an example. Braylon Wagner's put up phenomenal statistics over the last couple of years. But I'd go even further to say how many schools out there are putting up them statistics with him really usually playing 2 quarters, going out running one series in the third quarter, and then you pull him off, and he's still putting up them numbers. So I think you're right about the adults, and every situation's a little bit different. But I think that you do get situations too where statistically, I don't know what's going on up at Port Allegheny, but just take Aiden Bliss, for instance. I'm sure there's many records he can set or has set. And, at some point, is he playing at the detriment of himself and safety just to hit certain records? I don't know.
That can be brought up in a lot of different places about the records, and maybe we focus way too much on individual accomplishment as opposed to the team accomplishment. It's the society that we live in now. We're worried about those sort of things. I think that there's a handful of coaches out there that believe that those numbers will help a kid get recruited more, and I'll vehemently disagree with that. I mean, the college coaches know who the good players are. They don't need to see the numbers to back that up. Specifically numbers against teams that aren't any good. Like, what's that telling? It's not telling me anything. It doesn't tell me anything as somebody who picks things like players of the year and weekly awards and stuff like that. A lot of times, it's number driven, but I don't need the numbers to tell me that so-and-so's had a good season or, so-and-so's the best player or whatever.
Yeah. And I think that's the main thing that I won't say everyone loses focus on it, but at the end of the day, kind of like with pulling the players, I don't care whether you win by 5 or you win by 40. All that matters is that you won. And I think sometimes you lose focus. I believe before the show, you used the word meathead.
That's my favorite terminology. It's sometimes football can be a meathead type of sport, and I say that with all love and respect. But sometimes we lose focus on what we're doing. We're pounding, and the meathead thing comes from the pounding of the physicality of the pounding of your head into the ground so often in football that we joke that. Maybe sometimes we've lost focus on what it's going to be. I had somebody reach out to me last week and ask me after they watched the show last week, and they're like, Chris, why do you think like in football you see more forfeits or different things like that you don't see in other sports? And I do think some of it's an ego thing, and it's football, and football has a bigger ego than a lot of other sports does in general. And so teams don't want to be that team that's on the wrong side of the 75-20 score, the 75-7 score. And then not only is there that part of it, you have an entire week between games, right? So, like, for example, last Monday, Red Bank Valley played a football game after our show against Ridgeway, but then they didn't play another game until Friday. So there was like 4 or 5 days. Meanwhile, I was broadcasting a volleyball game between 2 state-ranked teams, Warren and Clarion. And by the time Friday had rolled around, Warren had played 2 other games. So like the game that they played against Clarion on Monday was a distant memory by the time Friday came around. Whereas in football, you play on a Friday and the previous week's game is not a distant memory come Friday. I mean, nobody sits here and talks about last Monday's volleyball game on a show like we're doing here. We're talking about the football games. And so I think that in football, it tends to even be more than it is in other sports because of the fact that it doesn't get played as much.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that.
So we're going to step aside again. Thanks some of our sponsors. We'll be right back here on Nolf Bites.
Why should you choose Nolf Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram in Fairmont City? Why wouldn't you choose them? At Nolf, their sales are speedy and include upfront and straightforward pricing. If it's service and parts you're after, they have skilled technicians who are factory trained while offering knowledgeable parts experts. Maybe you need Nolf's full service body shop offering top quality collision repair to all makes and models of cars, trucks, vans, and SUVs. Or do you want to cruise the highway in a clean, shiny vehicle thanks to Nolf's detailing service? No matter your needs, Nolf Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram in Fairmont City is there for you. Find out more at nolfchryslerdodge.com.
With locations in Shippenville and Tionesta, Tionesta Builder Supply is a full-service home improvement center specializing in everything you need to build or remodel your home. From power tools and accessories to paint and sundries and general hardware merchandise, Tionesta Builders has everything you need to get your project done quickly. Find out more at tionestabuilders.us and like them on Facebook. Back here, we're with Nolf Bites at Nolf Chrysler
Dodge Jeep Ram.
My gosh, you'd think I'd have this down by now, right?
You would think.
Yeah, you'd think. It just. I want to mention something that's coming up. It's football related. It's actually pretty cool. On October 2nd in Franklin, there's going to be this. There's this book that's coming out that was written by a guy, Darren. Let me get Darren's last name here for you real quick. Darren. Look at this here. Okay, here we go. Darren Hayes wrote this book called The World's Greatest Pro Gridiron Team. And it was a team of all-stars in Franklin, PA. 1903, they didn't give up a point. And so they're going to have this symposium with Darren Hayes and then a bunch of other people. Rumor has it maybe a former Steeler or two might be involved. Old-time Steelers in this case. Might have some other people involved, but anyhow, it's going to be at the Franklin Elks Club on October 2nd from 6 to 10. There's going to be a dinner with it. There's a pretty hefty price to it. It's $80, but you get dinner. You're going to get a free book, the whole 9 yards, signed book and stuff. But they've asked me to be involved with some of this, and so I said I'd definitely mention it. And we have a lot of football fans out there. Tickets can actually be purchased by going to the Venango County, by calling the Venango County Courthouse or Commissioner's office. The commissioners are really involved in all of this as well. Again, that's on Wednesday, October the 2nd at the Elks in Franklin. But I had an opportunity to talk to Darren Hayes on Friday, Andy, and some really cool stuff about how, this was in the very beginning of the whole professional football days, and how, Oil City and Franklin had a pretty big rivalry thing going on where they'd play a series of football games. And in 1902, I guess there was a pro team down that won something down in Pittsburgh. And then Oil City brought a bunch of those guys up to play in the game against Franklin and beat Franklin. And so
wasn't it like guys with money or something were buying these players?
Yeah.
To come in?
Yeah.
I read something on that.
And then Franklin wanted to have this pro team. And so they got this team together and they went out and in the original variation, Madison Square Gardens, there's been like 3 different variations in 3 different locations in New York City, but they won a championship at Madison Square Gardens in 1903. And Darren Hayes, this author, had come up with this and it found, done a lot of research and has written this book. In fact, going to do an interview with him. We might even play a couple snippets of that on next week's show if the interview gets done this week. We're hoping to get the interview done this week. So, but really, really some cool stuff there going on. And, I'm really interested just to sit down and listen to some of the people talk about, this first, you don't think about it, like from Franklin, PA, something like that, like basically right next door to us. So
yeah, that's kind of neat.
So speaking of football, I know you got to get to. Is it a midget game, junior high game,
There's a JV game against
JV game-
Montauk tonight.
JV game against Montauk tonight? So we're gonna have to wrap things up here. Ronnie overselling a car. It looks like that's good stuff.
Yeah, I think so. I think he was afraid you were going to ask him questions about Kane this week, so he got a little.
Yeah, he got a little nervous, so walked away. He's mad at us for last week when I was making fun of him, but
He didn't take them players out of the game.
yeah, that'll do it here for us on Nolf Bites for this week. Not sure, guys, if we're going to be able to do the show on Monday next. We might have to do it on Tuesday because Monday I'm busy. District 9 golf, a bunch of other stuff going on, so not sure how we're going to do that. But just stay tuned to the YDL Sports Network. We'll let you know when it'll air next week. We will have a show, just not sure which day yet. So thanks Andy, and thanks to Ronnie as well. And again, thanks to the great folks here at Nolf Chrysler Jeep Dodge and Ram in Fairmont City. See, I got it right that time.
You did.
So until next week, folks, this has been Nolf